everybody, and welcome back to the Stone Age Gamer Podcast. This is episode 35. My name is Chris. I will be your host, and with me tonight, as always, are Tiff.
Hello.
Dan.
Well, excuse me, princess.
And Dean.
¿Qué pasa, frijoles?
Wow. New record. Racism by 30 seconds in.
And that is why I chose to introduce Dean last.
So we can edit him out?
No, actually make me louder and echoey like a megaphone at a monster truck rally.
What the hell are frijoles?
Cold beans.
That's what I thought, but why the hell would you do that?
I don't know, they're pretty good with Fritos.
Chris knows.
So you have Fritos with frijoles? That's amazing.
I tried to say cool beans in Spanish earlier, and I accidentally said cold beans, to which Dean corrected me.
Well, I motherfucking caramba.
So for everyone's knowledge, it is fresco frijoles, which is cool beans in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Thought a fresco was like an art style, not cool.
Fresco means a lot of things in Spanish,
thought it
but
was
one of the
eating
things
outside.
it means is
Does it?
Like dining al fresco?
That is cool. I agree.
It's
All right, well done,
It's
Dean.
also eating outside.
Thank you, Senor De Falco.
de nada.
Well, having nothing to do with that conversation, tonight we are talking not about Spanish food type stuff. We are talking about video game cartoons, that is cartoons based on video games, and may as well just kind of dive right in here. Why don't we start with the most obvious, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
Do the Mario?
Yes, do the Mario.
Okay, like if you actually do the Mario with him, do you realize what happens to your body?
You melt?
No, you, like, walk like the Mario sprite.
Yeah, kinda. You really just swing your arms from side to side.
Okay,
You
you
take
do it
one
with a little
step,
bit of
and then
imagination.
again.
I think it was just because Captain Lou Albano couldn't move at that point.
Yeah,
in his
I mean, it
life.
was really just impressive to watch him do that little dance at the end. But before we go any further into that, if you haven't seen the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, you're missing out on a really crappy cartoon.
You're missing out on something.
You're missing that.
It's
It's amazing, is what it is. It's like, I don't know. All right, so it starred Captain Lou Albano, who was the professional wrestler, Captain Lou, and Danny Wells as Luigi, and it was a combination of live action and animated segments. There was this weird live action bit where they were plumbers in New York, and they kind of made the story that they were New York plumbers that got sucked down the drain and then wound up in the Mushroom Kingdom and had to save Princess Toadstool and got in all kinds of hijinks with Toad and Bowser, and it mostly took place, at least the Super Mario Brothers Super Show was very centered around Super Mario Brothers 1 and 2. And it was your typical early 90s low-budget animation thing. The cartoons themselves weren't exactly extremely well animated, but had a lot of character to it. It was just kind of crappy, cliched content. Interesting voice acting. The sounds and music, though, were all really cool because they were pulled right from the games. I don't know. I'll obviously go on and on about this because, as you can imagine, I was obsessed with this show as a kid. But what are you guys' thoughts on this?
I always liked it. I always liked the live-action segments more than the cartoon, because, I don't know, the cartoon was dumb. The live-action was dumb, too. But a better kind of dumb? If that makes sense?
Sounds like you're saying everything's just dumb.
It was pretty dumb. But
there was a
good
lot of dumb.
Yeah. It was sort of, I kind of felt like, and actually the timing might be off here, because this might have come first, but I felt like the live-action segments had a very Pee-wee's Playhouse kind of vibe. Like, there would always be, like, some bonkers special guest, like, a football player or like.
Wasn't Charo on an episode?
Charo was on an episode. Nicole Eggert was on an episode.
Cyndi Lauper was definitely on there.
Well, Cyndi Lauper makes sense though.
Yeah,
'cause she was
Cyndi
friends
Lauper
with
and
Captain Lou.
Captain Lou were.
Yeah, from WrestleMania 2. Look at that,
And-
we're calling back to last
And
week's
also,
episode.
Yeah.
the Girls Just Want to Have Fun music video.
Indeed, he was in that.
Well, yeah, but that was because of
But the
wrestling
one I
thing.
remember the most was the Nicole Eggert one because she was wearing like black and like silver striped harem pants, and I don't know why she needed a plumber, but every time they showed up, she got dirty. It was very weird. Like
That-
one
that
time they
sounds
were trying to
very-
make a pizza and she got covered in flour.
It's really
It's
sexy.
very weird.
Not
It's
for
not
nothing.
sexy at all. The pants
No.
are so unsexy.
Disagreed entirely. Nicole Eggert. She was hot.
High five for Dan.
The reason that I remember that, this is going to be kind of sad, but the reason I remember that is that around that time was when she was dating Corey Haim. And since he and I were clearly meant to be together, I had a lot of issues with Nicole Eggert.
That bitch.
That bitch. That harem pants wearing bitch.
I don't know, man. I
But
remember
He's dead now, so we're cool again. What's up, Nicole?
big fan of the show, Nicole Eggert.
Hey. That's a fucking Paper Cuts reference. Cut that shit out.
That's a paper cuts joke. You keep that shit separate.
CP Dubs would be very upset.
No, you're right. He definitely would.
Shout out to CP Dubs, big fan of Paper Cuts.
Big fan of paper cuts. Yeah, check out the link in the show notes later. I remember liking this show as a kid because like it was a Mario show and that was cool. And it was a cartoon, right? So you just like that's what you did in the 80s and 90s if you were around our age. You just like cartoons were just life. That was just a part of the very fabric of your existence. And like I was kind of drawn into it too because I loved Captain Lou Albano from wrestling, and I was like, oh, it's Captain Lou, and he's Mario now. Like my worlds are coming together. He doesn't have the rubber bands right now because like that was a weird wrestling thing, and that wouldn't have really
Stop
translated
talking about
to
wrestling stuff.
Mario. But like
I was sick last week on purpose, so I didn't have to hear about wrestling stuff. Stop talking about it.
fair enough. But like going back and watching this show now because it is currently streaming on all of your Netflix-enabled devices.
Well, just season 1, but
I
well,
think one season's enough, Chris.
do you need
Hey.
any more? That's what I'm saying. Do you need
I
any more
bought
than
them
season
all
1?
on DVD, so yes,
Of
I did
fucking
need all.
course
my
you
God.
did. Of course you did. You bought it when it became like Club Mario with the fucking weird teenage shit, and then when it was
Man, I hated that.
Super Mario Brothers Show 3 or whatever the hell they called it. Like, but like going back and looking at it now, it's really terrible. Like it's really bad, even for crappy 80s animation. It's really bad.
It is. It's a bad show. I bought it purely out of nostalgia and fascination for the source material because I was obsessed with that show when I was a kid. But it does not hold up. It reminds me of like when I went back to try to watch Thundercats, and it was just
Oh, no. Thundercats is a great show.
Thundercats?
You shut your dirty whore mouth.
okay. I went back to try to watch Thundercats, and like I swear to God, when one of the characters is like, Lion-O, there's a door over there. Walk.
Snarf.
It is locked, and I was like, "Oh my God, I was an idiot as a kid." I remember loving that show, and it just like that, and Voltron, and they had like really great ideas, but going back and watching them now, they just don't hold up as well as say like Gen 1 Transformers holds up a little bit better than that. And G.I. Joe to an extent because it's got some really bizarre humor just kind of stuffed in there that I didn't even notice when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But that's a podcast for another podcast. Yeah,
That
Super
is
Mario
well
Brothers-
said, Chris. That is a podcast
It's
for
for
another podcast.
Body massage.
I don't know, man.
Oh my God, a Fensler Films reference.
Me.
Nah, I'm just fucking with the kid. Pork chop sandwiches. Christ, that smells good.
So the Super Mario Brothers Super Show was on. It went straight to syndication So it was on 5 days a week, except it was on after I got home from school. And being a Nintendo junkie, I was just obsessed with this show. And the coolest thing, actually, before I get to the coolest thing, I just want to say that Super Mario Bros. Super Show was requested for us to talk to by Mr. Matt Much on our Facebook page. So thank you for the contribution, Mr. Matt. Every Friday, so Monday through Thursday was the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. And then on Friday, the Super Mario Bros. Super Show had the live action segments, but instead of doing Super Mario Bros., they did a Legend of Zelda episode.
Zelda, yeah.
And that was like...
Also a painfully, wretchedly, horribly bad cartoon.
Wretched is the correct word for it. Although I almost want to say it's more watchable than the Super Mario cartoons, but if so, not by much. Like
You know what the worst thing about the Zelda cartoon was? Is that it's in the same animation style, and I would not be surprised to learn even some of the same artists, but it's almost identical to Gummy Bears. But Gummy Bears was so good, and Zelda
awesome.
is so bad. So
Yeah.
the whole time you're watching Zelda, you're like, damn, I could be watching Gummy Bears. And I'm not.
The intro to the Legend of Zelda cartoon is so cool. Except,
and then they start talking.
Yeah, and then they start talking. Yeah, and then he's like, excuse me, princess. And he's always trying to get a kiss from the princess, and he's just like this horn dog scumbag who's like,
and for some reason, they've switched hair.
True.
It's actually
terrible.
my favorite version of Link.
It's terrible.
Like that's just the best version of Link in my
Poorly drawn
opinion.
douchebag version.
The poorly drawn douchebag frat boy Link. I actually really enjoyed the Legend of Zelda bits. Like, I agree. I do think it is more watchable than the Mario bits. Really, like, I don't know. I just thought it was cooler. And probably because I've always thought Link was a cooler character than Mario. Like, I've always enjoyed the Link, the whole Zelda franchise way more than Super Mario Brothers. But, yeah, I mean, going back and looking at that one, too, like, it's awful.
Well, you know what was cool about it is, like, alright, so as a kid, like I was saying about, like Thundercats was legitimately awesome when we were kids. Legend of Zelda cartoon, I thought, was just awesome. I mean, because it was the Kingdom of Hyrule animated. It had Ganon's Underworld, it had the Overworld, it was pulling from, the first two Zelda games. They really made something out of his limitless inventory. He had that magic pouch. It would just
that was
things.
Cool. Like, he used the items.
It was great, and
that was neat.
And why didn't they ever do that in the game? Like, it actually explained how he can carry around all this shit with him. And Zelda, she wasn't just a damsel in distress. I thought that was kind of cool to an extent.
Navi had an actual body instead of some.
Yeah, because back then the fairies were. That was the design of the fairies. They were all like these little floating, mostly naked girls. It was weird, but The thing I really loved about the show was the fact that they incorporated the little laser shooting sword thing, and it always had the sound effects from the games, which I thought was great. But there was this cool bit in the intro where they're like falling off a bridge, and Link like shoots sort of the water, and they like bounce off the splash. I was like, that's really cool stuff. I mean, but anyway, I thought that was a really cool addition to the show. I liked how they incorporated all that stuff. I loved that it was kind of a special thing, that it would only happen on Fridays. It was, you kind of built up to it because they'd show previews of the coming Zelda episode throughout the course of the week, and that shit was awesome.
The entire episode was only like 8 minutes long.
Yeah, well, they played the show was a half an hour long, so they showed two cartoons. So during each episode of the show, like episode of the Super Show, they would show a preview of the coming Legend of Zelda. It was usually the same preview they'd show every day, but it was just cool to build up that anticipation for it, and I freaking lived for Fridays. I loved it so much, but
I really liked the way they drew Ganon in that. Like, he looked pretty cool.
Yeah, he was just
like
he
looked kind of
pig monster. It was
before
they
like he
invented
looked
him as
legitimately
Ganondorf,
scary.
Yeah, except he talked like Cobra Commander.
Yeah, well,
and he was like kind of like. Yeah, he was powerful and he summoned monsters, but he was a little bit numbskulled, a little bit, but he was still relatively imposing. But he was a cool, drawn design for him. I agree. I thought it was a neat, because he was really drawn as a sorcerer, just a powerful sorcerer.
Yeah, I mean the animation in the Legend of Zelda bits versus the Mario bits. I mean, they're just the Zelda bits are just so much better as far as the animation is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you really break it down to brass tacks, it's very similar in overall quality, but it's so much more suited to that style than I thought the Mario one was. Not to take away from that, because that show really did a good job of capturing my imagination as a kid. You know, I as much as the content was garbage, it was still like this neat world, and you know, Toad made weird little sound effects when he walked, and the cap of his mushroom was actually a hat that he could take off, and you know.
Yeah, I thought that was really upsetting at the time.
It was so
why
disturbing.
is he ripping the top of his head off?
Oh, it's a hat. That's weird. Because it's what I don't know what I'm looking at. Hey, just stop thinking about it. But anyway, moving on past the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. The other main cartoon from that era, let's see, from Jason Solomon suggested that we would talk about Captain N the Game Master. Now, Captain N the Game Master starred Kevin, was this character's name. It was this dude named Kevin who was playing Nintendo games with his NES Advantage. I believe he was playing Punch-Out in the opening cinematic.
He was.
And his dog Duke was with him, and then all of a sudden it was like his TV explodes and sucks him in Tron style, and he winds up in Videoland with his Princess Lana, was it?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Let's go with
I'm gonna have to
Lana.
look that up. Man, I can't remember her name.
I'm sure you're right. Like,
really, what difference does it make if I am? But
that's a fair point.
because the important characters weren't her as the princess of Videoland. It was Pit from Kid Icarus, who was just named Kid Icarus and was an emo kid, like just floated around with his emo haircut and was whiny. Simon Belmont, the narcissist, for some reason.
Simon Belmont mixed with, like, Launchpad McQuack.
Launchpad McQuack and Vanity from the Smurfs.
It was goddamn Johnny Bravo before Johnny Bravo was a thing. It was brilliant.
But
Simon Belmont, like,
but yeah,
why?
like what?
What? He
I
did
would
karate
so
moves. He'd go,
wrong.
whoa!
It was so strange. And then you had the creepy midget Mega Man, who was green for some reason.
And wore a sweatsuit.
He's just talking
There
like
is an
mega this and mega that. And he was just creepy.
Yeah,
Creepy
he
little
was-
thing.
That's not how
He
Mega
was
Man
mega
talks.
shitty.
He was mega shitty. And then you had in like season 2, they introduced Game Boy as a character who was just a floating sentient Game Boy.
Wow.
And
That was
Fever
Princess
Dreams
Lana.
upon
I
your
was
head.
right. But
Of course you were.
Of course. But then there was the villains, which
Oh,
were
God.
totally awesome. There was
Oh.
Mother Brain from Metroid, who talked
Voiced
like a...
by the guy that did Audrey 2 in Little Shop of Horrors.
Yes, Levi Stubbs was the voice actor's name. I'm on the IMDb page. I don't just know that off the top of my head. But yes, the sassy black woman sounding Mother Brain, which is awesome. You had the Eggplant Wizard from Kid Icarus, who, I don't know, that was actually a pretty faithful representation, except, I mean, you couldn't really tell if they were idiots in the game, because they just kind of stood around shooting eggplants at you.
Yeah.
King Hippo is probably
Like
the
you
most
do.
disturbing thing. Because King Hippo was just... He was blue for some reason. Like, he had blue,
Yeah.
like, light blue skin and, like, always very well-defined nipples. It was...
I just don't understand where it went so wrong. Like, it was almost like they commissioned the show and they gave them, like, sides, maybe? Like, they wrote down what everything was supposed to be, but never actually showed them a picture of games or... I just don't understand.
That's
'Cause,
exactly
I mean,
what happened.
obviously it was licensed, and obviously it was fairly in depth. I mean, that's a pretty diverse breadth of characters there. How did you fuck them all up so badly?
If I was
Yeah,
gonna make a
it's-
hippo, I'd make him blue. So I don't know what you guys are talking about. Perfect representation. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Put that on your box. God damn it.
This is
It
also
Well,
was
like in
just
the weird thing too is that if memory serves, the match in Punch Out that Kevin is playing,
is against
right
King Hippo,
before he gets
is
sucked
against
into the
King Hippo,
television,
yeah.
Yep.
is against King Hippo,
who is not blue.
who ain't
No.
fucking blue.
Nope. In normal human skin tone. Unlike
It's-
Soda Popinski. Ugh.
Yeah, well, he's drunk,
On soda.
so he's red.
Sure. So
Because
Sure.
that happens. Yeah, not for nothing, I love Captain N. Like,
Oh,
I
God, me
really
too.
do. Like, it is... The depictions of the characters, like the Mega Man thing pisses me off, because I really love Mega Man, and that is just such a weird... Like, it's almost like the only picture that the artists on that show ever saw was bad box art Mega Man.
Yeah,
They're
it's
like,
he's
oh, that's
based
what he
on
looks
that.
like. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
like if you can watch the show and pretend that these are entirely different people, they just happen to have coincidental names. It's an awesome show.
It is.
If
It's
you
kinda
watch
crazy.
the show trying to like actually get some sort of, I don't know, story fulfillment out of characters that you love, it's just confusing.
Like Kevin's powers are super cool, like with his zapper gun and his
And his
NES
control
controller
pad.
belt buckle.
That was so fucking
He could
cool.
like shift to the left or pause time. Like it was so
That was
awesome.
badass. And Mother Brain in that show, I don't give a shit that it's just Aubrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors. It's awesome.
Yeah,
She's so fucking
she-
funny.
She looks like a broccoli
Whatever, I don't
with
care.
giant lips, a giant lipped broccoli.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Ingenious.
I love Simon Belmont in that show. He's so dumb.
I like him
love
in the
it.
show too, but I hate that they call him Simon Belmont.
Oh,
Like that
yeah,
just
it's
seems
so
so disrespectful
weird.
to the source material. Like you have this super serious video game in a time where video games really aren't super serious. You're trying to really have like this in-depth story, and we're gonna turn him into Launchpad McQuack. I just don't understand.
Well, they should have replaced him with not a Nintendo character, but still a great video game character, Leisure Suit Larry. Much better kid-friendly choice.
Much more kid-friendly choice. Now this show, to kind of tie it back to what we were previously talking about, is this was really tied in to, as far as like production is concerned, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, and they both had a very similar progression of things. Whereas the longer the show was on, the worse it got. Like the Super Mario Brothers Super Show then transitioned into Super Mario Brothers 3, The Adventures of Super Mario Brothers 3, to incorporate the massive success of Super Mario 3. And then eventually turned into the Super Mario World show, which was not good. And
I bet I've never seen an episode of that.
it's
Like
really
I've
not
never
great.
even seen.
I've
I've never
seen
even
3.
seen footage of it, of the Super Mario World show.
It really plays up on Yoshi's cowardice. Like, you know how Yoshi would be
Aw.
too scared to go into the castles in the game? They play up on that, like, a lot. It's really bizarre. And just the animation quality dropped significantly. Like, it just started to look like a crappier show as time went on.
So
and-
basically, it's like the adventures of Mario and his shitty friend.
Yeah, and his shitty companions, because everybody was still there. You know, Princess, Toad, and Luigi. They were all still there. All still fighting Bowser. The Koopa kids got involved. Like it was bad. It was bad stuff. But that wound up airing in conjunction with Captain N. Like after the second season of the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, once it went to Mario 3, they lost all the live action segments, and it was just the cartoons. And they wound up doing a half-hour split with like a 15-minute Captain N and a 15-minute Super Mario World, and it's just it's a shame how that kind of dropped in quality, and it really reminds me of like the way the old X-Men cartoon did the same thing. You know, that show started off like really super cool and great, and by the last season you're just like, oh my god, this is terrible. But
Yeah.
that's kind of the way things went with those. Anybody else have any thoughts to add to Captain N and the Game Master? Captain N the Game Master, not N the Game Master. Oops.
Yeah, that fucking Game Boy was creepy as shit.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Yeah, it really was. And I don't know, I was always surprised that there was not more brought into that show. Because Nintendo has such a depth of characters to use. And, like, I found it interesting like, or at least I find it interesting now, like looking back on that show of Castlevania, not a Nintendo franchise. Mega Man, not a Nintendo franchise. You know, like they had big names, but that were licensed from other companies.
There was also stuff that was tied up with someone else, because around that time, wasn't there, what was that one called? Like the Arcade Super Show or something like that, that had
You're talking
Pac-Man
about the
and
one with
Q-Bert?
like... Oh, no. I thought you were talking about the one with like Bigfoot in it.
No.
No, there was like a
Pac-Man.
Saturday morning arcade or something like that it was called, and it had like Pac-Man and Q-Bert and...
Various.
Well, Dan,
Was that on at the same time?
I think that was similar.
All of it was kind of around there.
Well, Dan. I mean, you actually mentioned this on Paper Cuts. It's that big guy in the corporate office with the cigar in his mouth, calling Johnson over to tell him, yeah, get these video game characters on there, yeah. And actually, can you do it? Because you do it much better than I do.
Johnson, what do the kids want? Castlevania? Put them in.
Perfect.
Yeah, like
See,
that-
that's
that's
exactly what happened. They didn't care what went in there as long as it had that name on there and it went into the show. And
Fair enough.
That was it. And
Are you guys talking about Saturday Supercade?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's older. That's actually from 82, 83.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, and that actually had, if I'm remembering correctly, that had
And
like
Donkey Kong?
yeah, like Mario and Donkey Kong and stuff in it. Yeah, that was a good long while beforehand.
Like looking at Captain N now, I would really like to see it come back.
I would love
and just
to see
be
it come
done
back.
well, because again, we live in this time of instant nostalgia, and not only would we be crazy for these things, but Nintendo has certainly built their library of characters and their mythos to a pretty insane level at this point, and you could do a really awesome show now.
You really
And
could.
fuck
I mean,
it, put it on the Wii U Virtual service as a downloadable thing. Like, you don't even have to find a network now. You can just put it out on your own downloadable service, and it would be killer.
yeah, I mean, it's basically Smash Brothers before Smash Brothers, as far as that's concerned. It's just mashing together a whole bunch of video game universes, and I mean, dude, Kevin would make an amazing Smash Brothers character. Like,
He
Captain
really
N
would.
should be a Smash Brothers character, but I think the real problem with all this stuff is that all these characters were Japanese, and this was all done in America. This was all American animation companies doing this stuff. So I don't think there was a whole lot of communication between the animation companies and the source material. It was like, we want to do something video games because video games are super popular and kind of cash in on it. I don't know. It's weird. It's all just very weird and a fascinating piece of history. But we're gonna tie up the first segment on those, and when we come back, we're gonna discuss a few other things with a little bit more of a rapid fire pace. So stick around. We'll be back in a few.
With the Mario Brothers and plumbing's a game. We're not like the others who get all the fame. If your sink is in trouble, you can call us on the double. We're faster than the others, you'll be hooked on the brothers. Hooked on the brothers. Yo, you're in for a treat, so hang on to your seat. Get ready for adventure and remarkable feats. You'll meet Koopas and Troopers, the princess and the others. Hanging with the plumbers, you'll be hooked on the brothers to the bridge.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We're going to jump into a few more of the requests that folks had sent in to us to talk about on the show. First, we'll mention Lord Helmet, fan of the show. He wanted us to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog, or The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, where they ate chili dogs, which is a weird situation because there were actually two concurrently running Sonic the Hedgehog animated series. One was a Saturday morning ABC show, which I believe was just called Sonic the Hedgehog, which was more of an action-oriented show. And then there was Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog that was a straight-to-syndication comedy show, both things had Sonic voiced by Jaleel White, and I
Do
remember
we feel like maybe one show was like the outtakes of the other show? Like all the stuff that didn't make the cut of the good action show went over to the silly show?
Nah, because
they were so different.
yeah, radically different.
It was.
But
it
why
was,
would you have your main character voiced by the same actor? Like,
Because
that's so
Urkel
weird.
is multifaceted.
Actually,
He's
it was the
not
same
just an
exact
action
voice.
star.
Certainly, he can play
Because
Urkel
of
and Stefan,
Sega.
but still.
You know what? It was annoying the first time. Let's do it again.
Yeah,
I did not like that voice at all. It was very grating on the ears. Besides that, the ABC show is really, really good, but that's not the one we're gonna talk about now, is it?
Well, the Sonic character was really similar in both of those shows. Like,
Yeah, it was
It
almost
had
like
a
he
more-
wandered into the set into two different shows and was like, alright, let's do this.
yeah, like Sonic was always kind of goofy and made jokes and was wisecracking and all about being fast and stuff. It was the worlds around him that were vastly different.
Well,
and
I mean the comedy one, there wasn't really a world. It was just a bunch of hills that were green, some trees and shit everywhere.
I remember it being really abstract.
Yeah, you know what it was like? Have you ever seen that oh my god, Homestar Runner episode where they make a cartoon and there's A Steve and the fucking wheelchair, and he's like, I'm gonna get you, A Steve, if it's the last thing I do. That's what
Hey,
Dr.
Steve.
Robotnik is, and A Steve is Sonic, and that's the show for as many episodes as it was on for.
God, it felt like a million. It was on every stinking morning.
Yeah, it was, and it wasn't good, and that was the premise. Every single episode was Dr. Robotnik was gonna catch Sonic. He sent out his two stupid-ass robots that could never catch him, and Sonic ate some chili dogs sometimes.
He was like
So-
Sonic was the Roadrunner and Robotnik was Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah.
And his two robotic Wile E. Coyote minions.
Yeah, it was
Like,
it was terrible.
I'm just imagining that, like, once a month, they would send Jaleel White into a little recording booth and be like, say some Sonic stuff for, like, 3 hours. And we'll divide it up from there. Like, we'll write the stories after the fact, and we'll, like, you say some serious stuff, and it'll go in this direction. If you say some silly stuff, then we'll ship it over to these guys. It's just,
You know, I got to tell you, you guys aren't selling me on this show. I've never seen it,
Don't
and now
watch
I'm
it.
not going to.
No,
Yeah, we're not trying to sell you on it. Don't do it. It's not good.
because the ABC show was like, oh, listen, we're going to spend our money wisely. We'll get Jaleel White, because that was probably maybe the original one that had the idea for it. And, you know, we'll plan around it and everything. We'll do the best that we can with the money we got. The other ones were like, fuck it, coke and hookers, and we'll just wing it when he comes in. And that's what happened.
Sonic the Hedgehog, Coke and hookers. All right, moving on. Sonic the Hedgehog, heck of a show. Don't watch it. It's pretty crappy. Moving on to a show that I actually do like. This was suggested by David Harris, Earthworm Jim.
That was a great show. It was funny. It had all the characters, and they were pretty close to what they were in the video game. And I, to be honest, I wish it was on for a longer amount of time than it got.
Yeah, like, it was really funny. It had some really good jokes in it. It aired on the WB. It was Earthworm Jim was voiced by Homer Simpson himself, Dan Castellaneta. It poked fun at the Camden Aquarium a lot, which I thought was awesome, because like it came on like right around where they built the Camden Aquarium, and everyone in New Jersey was like, "Why would you build an aquarium here? It's fucking Camden." And then, like, they did this whole bit where they put an aquarium in the middle of, like, this hick town, and nobody knew why it was there. And it was this recurring bit. It was great. It reminded me a little bit of The Tick. It had all the great characters from the game. It had fun animation. It had a great intro song. Like, Earthworm Jim was cool.
Well, and it worked because Earthworm Jim really was like playing a cartoon.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And that's the thing. I'm actually surprised that that's still locked up somewhere and not a game anymore. You know, there hasn't been any remastered versions or anything like that coming out, or even any new IPs, which is sort of
There was
sad.
a Earthworm Jim HD came out on 360. What, like 2 years ago, maybe?
Well, where's the new one? I want a new Earthworm Jim.
Why are you bringing up
Oh.
old shit from 2 years ago?
Well, they did Earthworm Jim 3D on N64, and it was pretty bad.
Yeah, I heard.
And then they did a couple of ports for Game Boy and Game Boy Advance and stuff, and they were just Earthworm Jim versions. And I don't know why a new one hasn't surfaced. I think it was tied up in rights for a little while, and then the original creators eventually got the rights back, and they were going to do something new, and it just couldn't get off the ground.
Well, yeah, Interplay.
I don't know.
Because Interplay made Earthworm Jim, and everybody loved them, and then they made the Matrix game, and everybody went, "Fuck you, Interplay. That game sucks. We don't give a shit about anything you do now." And there you go. No more Earthworm Jim.
Well, Dan, thanks for the history of Interplay.
I'm here for you.
There's your cliff notes. Yeah, I blame. That's such a. I blame Atari so much for the Matrix games. I mean, what was it? Enter the Matrix.
Yeah.
That was flat out unfinished. They were like, "This game isn't done," and Atari's like, "Nah, we're releasing it." And Interplay's like, "But it's not done."
But that was the marketing push behind that, because we were working video game retail at the time. When that game was coming out, it was like, this game is going to blow your fucking mind, and it's coming out from the guys who made Earthworm Jim. And that was plastered.
And it's essential to the story of the Matrix.
And that was plastered
like, this is
everywhere.
part of the story, yeah.
And then it bombed, and Interplay is gone. They're not a company anymore because of that game. There you go. Keanu Reeves fucking killed Earthworm Jim because he's an asshole.
Thanks, Keanu Reeves, for ruining
Keanu
everything.
Reeves.
Thanks, Keanu.
Well, shout out to Keanu Reeves. Big fan of the show.
Yeah, go make another samurai movie. Ass.
Okay, but what he's doing currently is making another Bill and Ted movie, so you shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Let's see how that goes first.
It's not going to go well.
Well, you know, when George Carlin died, I sort of felt like they maybe should have put that to bed. But I love me some Bill and Ted, and I will be there day one in support of Ted Theodore Logan and Bill S. Preston Esquire. Wild Stallions, baby.
Wild Stallions for life. Rufus, may he rest in peace.
Yeah.
Well, Tiff, you had a show you wanted to mention. You wanted to...
I did.
Yeah, go for it.
I did. I want to talk about Pac-Man and the Ghostly... What are we calling that? And the Ghostly Adventure? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures.
So this is kind of blowing my mind, because this is a new show. Like, it started in 2013. It is currently running. My kids are big fans. And it is so rich and so detailed, and there is so much story involved. Pac-Man lives in Pac-World with his, circle-themed friends. There's a circumference and
his Pac harem,
spiral, something. They're all named after circles, but he is the last of the yellow ones, and I say yellow ones with like uppercase letters because that's like a thing. So the yellow ones are tasked with protecting Pac-World from, whoever wants Pac-World to not be good, I guess. But Pac-Man's parents disappeared or died or something like that, so he's the last one that's left, and like he accidentally opens the seal to the netherworld, and that's where all the ghosts live. And like Pinky Inky and Clyde, I'm missing one. Blinky? There we go. They're bad guys because they're ghosts, but they're secretly good guys because they want to help Pac-Man, and they're going to help Pac-Man save Pac-World in return for being like returned to living, which just adds like a whole new level on this. Like, holy shit, the ghosts were people. Those are dead people. And there's so many layers. And there's the evil ghost, and there's so much story. And what blows my mind is that they got this level, like D&D levels of story, out of a flashing pixel and some dots from the 80s. And I'm fascinated by that. I mean, Pac-Man is a fun game, obviously, in the same way that Tetris is a fun game and Space Invaders, but how did we get all of this out of that?
Ladies and gentlemen, the marvels of pot.
It's something. I mean, it's literally mind-blowing. And my kids, have never played Pac-Man. We don't. Well, no, I guess they have seen it emulated.
They have played the vastly superior Miss Pac-Man.
Well, certainly.
True.
But I mean, they are so into this Pac-Man show, and like they could tell you all about it, and they're like, yeah, the Pac-Man family is extinct, and Pac-Man's dad's name is Zach. So, like,
is it Zach Man?
Zach?
Yes.
Like his last name is Man?
Yes, and it's spelled Z-A-C.
Zach, man.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And it's like
I'm Zach
they're
Man.
legit.
This is my brother Jack Man.
Yeah, and like this show is on Nickelodeon XD.
Is that their
that's
Shriek
not a
version
thing.
or something?
Yes.
There's Disney XD.
There's Disney
Disney
XD.
XD. Sorry.
Nickelodeon
Did I say?
XD.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to say Nickelodeon. But like, there's like legit voice acting on it. Ashley Ball does several of the characters, or Belle, does several of the characters of My Little Pony and Hey Ocean fame. There's great production value. I mean, it's like a real thing, and I don't understand why or how.
Well, I mean, they did this before. I mean, not to that extent. But
Yes,
back
there
in,
was a
like,
Pac-Man show before that was not good.
No.
But that was mostly just, hey, Pac-Man's walking around. Good for him.
Yeah, we gave him a hat.
Look,
and
right.
the whole
Pac-Man's got
family.
legs.
But
is-
this is like a whole universe now. Like, it's crazy. And now there is a Pac-Man game on the Wii U. There is a Pac-Man game from the Pac-Man show based on the Pac-Man game.
Stop.
And I heard the
I
game's
know.
pretty good. Like, the second one's supposed to be pretty good. Like, the first one was alright, kind of surprising everybody. Like, hey, this is a competent game. And the second one actually got pretty decent reviews across the board.
Was it better than Sonic Boom?
What wasn't?
Way to set the bar high there, D.
And I mean, I think it's awesome that my kids are into Pac-Man.
It just
But I
makes
just-
me really excited for the eventual Moon Patrol show.
Oh my god.
See, I knew it would happen. All I had to do was throw out some crazy-ass vector graphic-based game, and Chris would fucking gobble that shit up.
Hey, Moon Patrol was not vector graphics.
Oh,
It was
whatever.
just awesome.
And like, I mean, the only thing that you can even really say about the show that has anything to do with the game whatsoever is Pac-Man eats a lot. So, sure. And then after he eats a ghost, he spits out their eyeballs, and the eyeballs get sucked back to the netherworld. And
That's deep. Like the eyes being the windows to the soul. He spits
Stop.
those back out.
but they're
to the
actually
netherworld
dead
world.
people.
Like he's spitting out actual dead people's souls. Pac-Man's an asshole.
And there's
He
some
ate
stuff
the
in
person's
it.
already dead.
All right. You know
What
what?
a dick.
This is basically Doom and Pac-Man had a baby for a kid
It's
show.
so
This is where
bizarre.
it is.
It is so bizarre. The evil ghost is Betrayus. And he's like the king of the netherworld, and he's trying to take over Pac-Man so he can get out of the netherworld. Or Pac-World, rather.
His name's Betrayus.
His name is Betrayus.
I feel like they're trying to say something with that name.
You
I
know,
feel it's somewhat suggestive.
It is
I
very
can't really quite
it is
put
very
my finger
punny,
on
this
what.
show.
You know what? I so good on them for expanding the mythology and actually making something out of it. I think that's great. Because like they've tried to do this kind of stuff with Pac-Man a lot of times before in the past. With they did the
why?
Pac-Man World games and
Which
Well, it's
were
like-
terrible.
It's like we were saying a couple weeks ago, the forcing of like a personality on some of this stuff that just, I mean, that there's nothing intuitive, there's nothing organic about any of this, and it's just bonkers. And I'm not going to say
Yeah,
it's a bad show, because it's not. It's a lot of fun, but
No, I
why-
would say it's Angry Birdsian.
yeah, but like why it has to be Pac-Man? Like I sort of feel like they came up with a show and they went,
Well,
we got this
right,
Pac-Man
but
thing hanging around.
well, it's very
why-
much.
I think most video game characters are sort of soulless from back then. I mean, Mega Man and Mario both had very simple premises. I mean, Pac-Man is ultimately more simple, but you add story to it. And I can't say that the Mario show is very good, but they tried.
Well, this is kind of what I'm saying. Like, I feel
Well,
like
I think
there's
this
the
is
thing-
just another attempt.
Well, this is more of a. I think it's brand preservation from Namco. I think it's them. I'm pretty sure the way this must have went down was Namco said, we want to make Pac-Man relevant because he's our mascot character. This is a precious commodity to us. How do we reinvent this brand? And that can go a couple different ways. It can go Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures, or it can go Sonic Boom, which is bad on all levels. Game, comic, cartoon, it's bad. But Namco taking this kind of care to make sure that their primary character remains relevant, I think is kind of fantastic. I mean, that's something that taking something that's basically a circle with a piece of slice of pie taken out of it is making it an endearing character to a new generation of kids. I think is pretty cool. And
When all they had to do to keep him relevant was re-release Pac-Man Versus on the Wii U. Because goddamn it, that's perfect.
Why the hell is that not a thing?
Son of a
I
bitch,
don't
Pac-Man
know.
Versus is so good.
It's so
Damn it,
good.
Pac-Man versus. Grr.
Why? There's
Why?
Pac-Man's in Smash Brothers, for crying out loud. It's not like there's Pac-Man's in the Mario Kart arcade games. There's no bad blood between Namco and Nintendo. Why isn't that a thing? Ugh.
Give me online enabled Pac-Man Versus. Fuck, I would pay $20 for that.
Shit. Give me that or give me death.
You hear that, Nintendo? We want Pac-Man versus. Nintendo, shout out. Big fans of the show.
Big fan of the show. Fuck, I don't remember the guy's name now. Reggie Fils-Aimé.
Fils-Aimé.
Uncle Reggie. I love Uncle Reggie.
It's pronounced Fils-Aimé. Or if he's a robot, the Fils-Aimé.
Yeah, but
Oh
Fils-Aimé
my
was
God.
funnier.
Yo, they
Sorry.
did the Fils-Aimé. That was a thing.
I know.
It was hysterical.
There's a Reggie bot.
There was a Regibot. Fils-Aimé.
Of course
So
there's
good.
a Reggie
So
bot.
ridiculous.
So good.
Speaking of robots, who's the king of segues now, Chris?
Ah, yes.
I actually want to talk about the only video game cartoon, minus Pokemon. I will concede Pokemon is probably the best video game cartoon that there has ever been.
I think that deserves to be in a separate category because I think we're talking about an entirely different animal with the Pokemon situation.
Yeah, because
It's
like,
a video
while it
game
is all
cartoon.
essentially based on the game, it was all kind of a multimedia.
Yeah, it all
Sure.
kind of happened at the
Sure.
same
Yeah.
time.
But yes,
But
now
if we're talking video game cartoons, Pokemon I think is your kind of top level. But the one from around the era that we are kind of dancing around, the Mega Man show was actually good.
yeah,
Like
It was awesome.
it was a good show with a great theme song,
oh heck yeah.
and
Now-
like the animation was good, the voice acting was good, the storyline was good enough. It was close enough to the games. Like there were a couple things where it was like, Proto Man's not a bad guy. Why is he with Dr. Wily in this show? The crossover for like an episode and a half with Mega Man X
Oh,
and
that
Vile
episode was so good.
Yes.
and fucking
Yes.
Spark Mandrill. That shit was
Yes.
awesome. That show is a legitimately good show.
It
was done
There
very
are
well.
few aspects of it that haven't aged as extraordinarily well, but on the whole, it is a very, very cool show. It has a weird history that I learned about pretty recently. That it was the show that we got was actually not the show that it was intended to be originally. There was a totally different animation style that was a little bit closer to the way the artwork in the for the games looked, like a little bit more cartoony, and you can actually they had this whole intro sequence that was made using this other animation style as kind of a promotional thing, to get investors and stuff to get involved in, being advertisers for the show.
And it looked really awesome.
It did. It looked really awesome, and a piece of that is actually used in the intro to the Mega Man show that we got. There was like a piece of like a bunch of Mets flying and exploding villains, and you don't even notice it unless you know to look for it. But it's actually done in a completely different animation style than the rest of the show.
Yeah, he was weirdly muscular for a robot.
Yeah, it was a strange redesign of the character, and what was Rush was basically like Scooby-Doo to an extent, but the way they added all the different characters, the way that Mega Man would steal their powers, the way his hand would like disappear into his arm cannon, so he could like either have a hand or his arm cannon was cool. The fact that Dr. Light didn't sound like Elmer Fudd was cool. Because goddammit, Mega Man 8, what the fuck?
The fact that Cutman did not look like the Cutman on the Captain N episode of Cutman because
you mean Cutsman?
Sorry, Cutsman.
Cutsman.
Because
Daniel Cutsman.
Daniel Cutsman. That may be the creepiest depiction of any character in the history of ever. Like, that is certified nightmare fuel. But like they were very respectful of the source material while still making it work for a show.
Yeah.
And I can't speak to any of the Battle Network or Star Force, I think was the one that came after that. Because I know those had decent runs as shows as well, but they were very heavily anime influenced.
Yeah, they were
whereas
very Japanese
this one
anime.
was not. This one looked like G.I. Joe.
Yeah, it was done by the Ruby Spears animation company.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. Very cool take on the world. They played on all the Proto Man's, Mega Man's brother. They made Roll interesting. She is very much a 90s girl with her shoulder pads and 90s haircut and extreme vacuuming. Very, very weird.
She looks like a diner waitress.
She does. She really does. And she
looks like Chi-Chi.
I don't know what that means.
Like from Dragon Ball? I think her hair's poofier than that. She reminds me a bit of Irene Liu from Ninja Gaiden. Boy, that was a reference.
Fair enough. Holy shit. Deep cuts. God.
But the like the energy tanks were like drinks. It was a very cool show, and I loved getting up in the mornings and watching the show. And they had those little commercial break things where Rush would be like and it's just ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. It was a cool show. It just got re-released on DVD finally, because season 1 was fairly readily available. Season 2 was released in incredibly limited quantities, and they just did this great complete series package with all this original Capcom artwork and stuff on it, just making it look very retro. It's really cool.
The
package.
box art is super cool.
Yeah, and
the purple, like old school NES style cardboard box that the games came in. It's really excellent.
The discs kind of look like NES carts, I think. It's really cool. I want it so badly. I just don't have the disposable income for it, but I really want to buy that show because it was a lot of fun to watch.
Well, yeah, because like let's make no mistake, like it was a good show. It's not necessarily a show that you need to watch all the way through again or like that, and that's really the sad part to me about all of this shit is that I can't recommend like you go pay money for much of this. Like because Captain N is available, you can still buy it. The Super Mario Brothers Super Show, the Legend of Zelda, the 13 episodes, like you can get a box set of that stuff, and like I save your money.
Yeah, they're all pretty easily accessible on the internet with pretty limited Googling skills. You can find it, and I don't know.
One would say you could even Bing them. You don't even have to Google.
No, one wouldn't say that.
No, nobody
says
does
that.
Let's not product place for Microsoft on here.
Big fan of the show, Bill Gates. I'm here for you, buddy. Thanks for making Windows 10 free. Appreciate it. Because Windows 8 sucks balls.
Anyway, I don't know. Like a lot of it sort of felt like the TV version of shovelware. It was just, hey, this thing is popular. Let's shove it on the television, and most of it is crap.
Yeah, I mean, you got just absolute swill, like the Street Fighter cartoon, the Double Dragon cartoon, which was wow, really bad. And then, we can't go through an entire show without mentioning the show that never got off the ground, that never went past pilot, but we all know should have, Bubsy, the animated series.
I mean, like, does that keep you awake some nights, Dean? Like, are you sitting there thinking, what could possibly go wrong? I don't know. Why is it not a show?
Like, is there there's an alternate universe somewhere where it was a show and a successful show, and you don't get to live in that universe?
There's a dark curse that haunts me every night. And it whispers in my ear.
This is indeed the
What could
darkest
possibly go
timeline.
wrong?
Uh-huh.
I hate it.
It's got to be on
With
one of the
every fiber
52.
of my being.
Well, I think, like,
52 Earths out there. One or two of them's got to have a Bubsy show.
that also belongs
No,
on paper
none
cuts,
of
honey.
them need to have
I'm
a
sorry.
Bubsy show. None of them need to have the game. None of them need to have Bubsy exist. In fact, my background on my computer is of Sonic and Mario murdering Bubsy. And I
Aw.
shit you not, that is actually on my computer, and that is my background. I turn my computer on every day, and that is what's there, and that's what makes me happy and gives me solace on this earth. Done. Show over.
I feel like we all know a little bit more about you. I feel like maybe we didn't need to.
I think the saddest thing, like when we decided that this was going to be a topic for us to discuss, I got really excited about it. Of like, yeah, video game cartoons, awesome. And then I went back and looked at a bunch of them and went, fuck, these were bad.
These are all
None of them are really
terrible.
that good.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
son of a bitch. And it's just what makes me sad about it is that there's such an opportunity there. Like
There
the fact that there was a pole position cartoon at one point is stupid. The fact that there's not a really good Mario show there you go, Dean, because it's Mario, but the fact that there's not a good Mario show is weird because while I may not like the games, there is more than enough story to do a cartoon. It's
Like,
not
seriously.
that hard.
Why isn't there one now? It's not like people aren't into Mario now. I mean, they release a game every year. Why is there not a show now?
This video game shit, nobody likes that.
If they
Like-
can make a good show out of Pac-Man, like she's saying, there should be
Seriously.
a Super Mario Brothers show. It's ridiculous that there's not.
Why
I
isn't
mean-
there a Pikmin show?
A Castlevania show.
I knew somebody was going to say Castlevania.
I don't
Well, that
know
was
how
for
open
Mike.
Nintendo is about throwing their stuff out there to other companies at the moment because their whole YouTube thing right now is pretty shitty.
Yeah.
But that's a story for another time.
Yeah, but I mean, Nintendo has gotten a little bit into animation themselves. I mean, they did those Pikmin animated shorts,
Yeah,
and they're
like,
great. I would
how
watch
awesome
more
would
of
a
those.
full Pikmin show? That would be so amazing.
It is.
I would
but
watch that.
They don't have any plans on it. They're strictly in the game market right now, and to be honest, I don't see them doing anything relatively soon with that, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, they are.
It's really
frequent-
surprising from Nintendo to see them not, and maybe it's just an American versus Japanese ideal. Whereas I look at like Disney buying Star Wars and buying Marvel and being like, fuck it, you're gonna get a Star Wars movie every year, and you're gonna get cartoons and comic books and toys and goddamn everything you could possibly want for Star Wars. And we look at these Nintendo characters and we go, well, god damn it, of course I'll pay $100 for the Pit Amiibo because that's the only Pit thing I can get. Give me a T-shirt for fuck's sake.
Well, I
Like
think
there's
the
just
thing is-
not stuff.
Well, I think the problem, and they're starting to come out of that now. Like they're starting to make stuff. There's a line of World of Nintendo toys. That's there's a Metroid coming out, not a Samus. There is a Metroid figure coming out, like just an action figure, and they're starting to do that kind of stuff. They're starting to branch out into.
I
What
would
does
I
it
would
do, float?
I would
It just
argue
sits there.
Opposing
That is an
tendrils?
in-action figure.
yeah, I would argue that that belongs in the Kevin Smith line of Jay and Silent Bob in action figures.
Yes, absolutely. I think
It
it may
just-
come with a Samus figure, but still, there's a freaking Metroid thing coming out. I can't. I want one. I want to throw it at people.
But Metroid is such a perfect example. You're telling me that there's no way you could do a good Metroid cartoon
With
like
a
good,
female
serious
protagonist like that,
Metroid
that
cartoon?
would kill. That would
That would
just
kill.
kill. And it never ceases to amaze me that a company that is so successful and does so many things right makes so many glaringly obvious missteps.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
just
and this
baffles me.
this comes from some of those missteps. I mean, the last time they handed out their licenses to things, they wound up with the Super Mario Brothers movie and the Super Mario Brothers Super Show and the Zelda cartoon, which we all revere as through nostalgia glasses. But Nintendo as a company, they're not crazy about it. The last piece of
Yeah, but that was
major
30
animation.
years ago.
Well, yeah, there
Well, you
was
get
that,
burned once,
and,
you know.
and then they had they did the Kirby show, and that ran for a good long while, and had a successful run. But the last show that they did was F-Zero GP Legend, which was terrible, and they got burned really hard on that. And it ran for like a season and a half, and it was bad. And then they went into this very conservative, weird kind of reinvention thing where they got really, really tight on their franchises, like absolutely tight. Like nobody touches this stuff.
But they could do that in-house. It would not be a stretch for them to start up a tiny little animation cubicle and produce a show in-house. That would not be difficult for them to do.
Well, but
And
that's,
they've been
that's a
talking
risk.
about that recently. They've been saying things like, we're looking into other ventures. We're looking into things like movies. We're looking into all these different things. They're finally starting to branch out past that. And it's my sincerest hope they actually do something with it. Because, like everything you're saying, it could be great. As long as
call up Andrew Lasseter and say, we'll give you all of the money in the world to come move to Japan for a year and make us the most amazing thing that's ever happened. And
yeah,
I promise
they
you
could do that. I mean, a Legend of Zelda. I've been saying there should be a Zelda comic book for the longest time. That would make an amazing comic series.
Well, comic books just they need to stay away. Nintendo in particular needs to stay away from movies. Uncharted is a movie.
Yeah.
Metroid is a cartoon series. Metroid, they're cartoons. Like, Nintendo games are cartoons, and that's okay. Like, the stuff that has come out, like in the models that we have today, where entire runs of cartoons, and not just like BoJack Horseman on Netflix, which is a comedy show, but the anime that is currently on Netflix, that premiered on Netflix, is widely regarded as a great show. It's perfect. It could happen, and it should happen. Like, it really, really should. And when you look at the Nintendo, like, stable of characters, who the hell wanted an F-Zero cartoon?
Yeah, like, that is what you hung your
That's
hat
what you
on?
got to?
F-Zero? Really?
Yeah. Falcon Punch. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
thing. Like,
racing.
Give me a
F-Zero,
goddamn Star Fox cartoon.
yeah,
before
that's
an
what I'm talking
F-Zero
about. Yeah.
cartoon.
Like, I'm not saying
Nope, Captain
F-Zero
Falcon.
couldn't make a cool cartoon, but F-Zero should be a comic book. The instruction manual for the first F-Zero is a comic book. Like, sure, but yes, make a Star Fox animated series, for crying out loud. I'd watch the shit out of a Kid Icarus animated series. I mean, I would, but these different franchises would make excellent animated series, and I'm also surprised that they haven't done that. But we've reiterated this point a couple times over. I think it's time to rein it in and call it a night. And this was a heck of a conversation, because video game cartoons, they should be amazing, and unfortunately, with the exception of a few recent things, Mega Man cartoon, not that's that recent, that was good. Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures is apparently good. Do you recommend us tracking that down? Should I watch
Oh,
this show?
absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the ones that makes it a little more bearable to let the kids watch cartoons if it's a show like that. It's a little more tolerable. It's a great show. It's
on Netflix.
And it's on Netflix. I mean, it every time we put it on, I'm like, what? What is that? Where did that come from? But it's really good.
That's awesome. Video game cartoons are a good time, and there should be more of them, and there should be more good ones. Watch the Pikmin animated shorts. They're totally awesome. They're really adorable.
Well, I mean, we know that it can be done well. Look at Wreck-It Ralph. I mean,
True.
obviously it can be done well.
Absolutely. Jeez, Wreck-It Ralph, that was so good.
It was amazing. It was absolutely perfect. It was everything that it needed to be.
Well, I think Chris made the point when he said that Tiff, I think you said that Nintendo should do this themselves, and
Yeah.
hopefully they will, because they've given out their licenses to so many people, and it's been done wrong very many times, and only done right, I'd say, less than a handful. So, fingers crossed, guys. Fingers crossed.
There's always hope for the future. Anyway, Dean, do the thing.
So, remember, if you liked anything we were talking about and want to find out more about it, there will be links in the show notes available. We will also have a contact us link on our show notes as well, and links to all our web pages and social media. So remember, if you need anything at all, which is referenced in the show, remember to check the show notes. Also, we have something special coming up, don't we, in April?
We do.
Are we talking about that yet?
Why wouldn't we? We paid money for it.
Valid point.
Yeah, so we are going to be there unless he does refunds, which I don't think he does. So we will be at the South Jersey Geek Fest April 4th. That is a Saturday from 10 to 5. It'll be fantastic. We'll be doing a live podcast there, which we've done before, and it's turned out fantastic, and we hope to do it again. We hope to catch that magic. So if you want to see us live in person, have us sign your shit, which you probably don't because our autographs are worth nothing. Maybe in the future they will be, though. Or if you want to talk to us, high five, just hang around, maybe even get a snippet on the podcast or something. You never know. Come down to the South Jersey Geek Fest, and we'll have details in the show notes for that.
Wait, do we actually have to high five people? I don't like strangers.
I'll fucking high five him, Dan, okay?
Can we
I'll
fist
high five.
bump?
Yeah, fine, you can fucking fist bump him.
Less germs than a fist bump. All right.
Truth. And that's going to do it for episode 35 of the Stone Age Gamer podcast. In fact, this, if I'm doing my math correct, is going to be the last Stone Age Gamer that we do with Geek Life. Because times they are a-changin'. By the time you actually hear this podcast, we will have gone through the changes to Geekade.com, which is the new name of our site. We're going to have a ton more content, lots more writers, lots more videos, lots more podcasts. It's basically Geek Life expanded to a huge degree, and it's all extraordinarily exciting. We've been talking about big changes coming for a while now, and these are they that are them. These are the changes. Geekade.com is our new home, and it is extraordinarily cool, and we can't wait to see where it all goes. And that's it for episode 35. Thank you very much for listening. Join us again next week when we'll be discussing the games that we've been playing all throughout the month of January. Thanks again for listening, and have a great night.
Super fighting robot, Mega Man. 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 Fighting to save the world.
Yellow ones.
Yeah, he's like a yellow one, and
See,
the
it
yellow
sounds
one.
racist when Dean says it.
Fuck you, not everything sounds racist when I say it.
Anyway,
Disagree. Everything sounds racist when you say it.
it sort of makes it sound like our site is becoming a woman. With all the changes that it's going through, and
Oh, I thought you were going with a cherry poppin' joke. You
no,
dirty old stayabout.
no.
Dirty old
No, I'm just-
stayabout?
I don't know. I'm
Everything that
really tired.
Everything that he said about like the changes and we're becoming a new and exciting phase, like I'm getting flashbacks from like 6th grade health class.
I don't know. I went with stayabout because I didn't want to call my wife a slut on the air, but I guess I just did. So
And it's not
you
the first
dirty
time.
slut.
Okay, so all of this was after the outro, so this doesn't have to be there, right?
Yes, I will appropriately edit the fuck out of this.
Excuse me, princess. I'm just trying to get up in them guts.
Oh my god.
What?
Did he say that? Because he should have. I wish he did. Trying to get up in
Great. Somebody reset Chris.
This is the hardest he's laughed in a while.
I know. I feel good about myself now. I didn't know if that. You know.
Feel good about yourself, too.
Tears.
I do.
That one landed pretty hard, man.
That really did. That was a fucking cracker. I'm excited.
Oh god. Oh, my stomach hurts. Oh shit.
Critical hit, Dan.
Wow, that was the nerdiest way to describe a joke I think I've ever heard, Dean.
You're welcome.
Critical hit. God, I love you. Man,
Oh dear
I
god.
mean, so you keep laughing. I'll just keep talking.